So this is Lauren Green here, and I would like to welcome everyone to our Nova Scribes webinar today on lettering tools and tips for visual practitioners. Could I get, if anybody is using the chat feature, just a little thumbs up, or I can hear you to let me know that you can hear me okay? Or you can do a thumbs up on your screen. Great, thank you. Excellent, okay, cool, excellent. So just wanted to kick off by telling you all a little bit about Nova Scribes, and we will introduce Heather Martinez, who is our instructor today, our wonderful lettering instructor, and we'll go through a few housekeeping notes, some introductions before we get into the webinar. So Nova Scribes, for those of you who aren't familiar with the group, we are based in Chantilly, Virginia, and we are an open forum for visual practitioners for sharing knowledge. We are anyone who uses visuals. We are graphic facilitators, graphic recorders, scribes, sketchnoters, video scribers, UX designers, and visual consultants. And we do everything from formal organized classes to graphic jams, open spaces, and now we're pleased to offer webinars. This is our second webinar, and I think both have had an international attendance, so that's very exciting, and we are really looking forward to expanding our presence online and doing more workshops like this. So let me tell you a little bit about Heather Martinez. Heather has presented lettering classes at 2 International Forum for Visual Practitioners conferences, IFVP. She pulls from over 20 years of graphic design and typography, and she has studied with masters in calligraphy and sign painting, and also with graffiti artists. You might notice her handle on Twitter is Corporate Graffiti Artist, so that's where that comes from. Heather is also a Neuland. If you don't know, Neuland is the marker brand that visual practitioners love. She's a Neuland ambassador and also co-designs products, Neuland products, including the hand lettering practice pad and the hands-on mailer, and you may have received both of those things in the mail recently. Heather is a good friend and colleague of mine. I've worked with her at OG Systems, which is my workplace, and we often use their space to do workshops. So they are a proud sponsor of our Nova Scribes group. And Heather is going to she's going to do the lettering webinar, and then she's also going to tell us about a new lettering website that she's working on and going to be launching. And there's a rumor out there, a little bird has it, that Heather might be working on a book, which would be amazing for us all. So with that, let me do a few housekeeping notes, just in case you are new to Zoom. If anybody at any point gets booted out of the Zoom, that shouldn't happen. We're on a Zoom Pro account. Everything should work fine. But if you do have experienced any kind of difficulty, I would recommend going right back to the meetup.com event page, clicking on that link to come back in. And if that happens, you know, just hop right back in the group. If you have any difficulties, you can always message in the chat. If you don't have the chat open, a lot of times if you just restore your screen, so don't use the maximum, but just click the restore button, and then you should be able to have the screen so that you can see both of the Neuland markers video or Heather's lettering video, as well as the chat on your screen, should you like to use it. So you can also chat if you're having any issues. Just to introduce you to Zoom, in case you haven't used it before, you should be seeing Unlock Your Neuland Markers as the main screen, and then along the top, or if you're using an iPad, it might look a little bit differently, but you should see kind of a film strip of other people on the call, so you can click through that and kind of see who is on here with us. And you can also click on other people's faces or video icons if you wanted to snoop in and look at anyone else. Let's see. So like Heather said at the beginning, we are recording this webinar, and we will be posting the video afterwards on the Nova Scribes Meetup page for if people who weren't able to attend, as well as if you would like to save this video for future reference. We ask that you please mute yourself when you're not talking. So we're not going to mute all participants. So that means if you have a question, and Heather will go over how she's going to do that, but that means you can chime in at any time, but please mute yourself just for background noises. And let's see, went over the chat feature. And I think that the last thing is just that Heather is looking to expand her email list. So should you wish to subscribe to future lettering webinars or workshops that Heather's putting on, you can type your email into the chat feature, or alongside the chat feature, you can switch. It'll give you the option to chat to everyone or just to Lauren Green. So if you would like to just send me your email privately, and I would be happy to collect those for Heather's subscriber list. Let's see, I think those are all of my little housekeeping nuggets. Heather, did you have anything to add to that?
No, you covered it. Thank you, Lauren. Such a pro.
Sure thing.
Wonderful.
I tried. Yeah.
Wonderful. So thank you, everybody. Hi, I'm Heather Martinez. I'm really excited to be here. I've been looking forward to this for months. I think we decided to do this before I left DC, traveled across the country, and now I'm in Vernon, British Columbia for a few more days before I hit the road again. And so this was all planned out ahead of time. I asked, before we were talking a little bit about, should we have people muted? Should you mute yourself? How does this work? Well, I figure if you're writing along with me and practicing along with me, chances are you don't want to put your questions in a chat box. You probably just want to speak up. So if you can do that, that would be great. But if you do find that maybe you don't want to talk, but you do want to ask a question, maybe it's a question for later or a question that you have, please put that in the chat box as well, because we'll be monitoring the chat, and I can answer questions as we go. It would really be great if we could do that. I've been making videos all week, and I'm still really uncomfortable talking to a screen full of people if I can't hear them. It seems so unnatural and synthetic to me. So I would love to hear from you as well. So I want to thank you for joining us, and we'll just dive right in if we can, start making letters. I just had this placeholder page that says unlock your Neuland markers, because it was the face plate sort of for a series of videos that I created this week. So chances are, if you tune in again, I'll give you some information where to find these videos at closer to the end, but that's what that's from. But I would say a couple of things, actually. Let's go ahead and just get out a piece of paper, just a blank piece of paper, and your favorite marker. It doesn't matter what kind it is. Lauren, did we want to do a round robin real quick, or did we do that?
We can do that real quick, up to you.
Yeah, why don't we do that? Get people, okay. At least I can hear some voices. I know you're real.
Let's make everyone real. So we can do a quick activity called a team portrait for all you facilitators out there. This is a wonderful way to start any facilitated meeting. So what I'm going to do is I will call on names in alphabetical order. And when I call on you, if you wouldn't mind unmuting yourself and just sharing briefly with us your name, what you do, let's see, name, do, and outcome, something that you're looking forward to about this webinar, and what your favorite marker is. So if you want to, on the top of your screen or on that film strip, you can see Lauren's doodle cam. And Heather might be capturing it too, but I'm going to capture a little visual team portrait. So again, that was, I'll type it into the chat. It's your name, do, outcome, and favorite marker. So no pressure, but Angie, you happen to be the first alphabetical name. Would you mind going first?
No, I don't mind at all. So my name is Angie, as you can see on the screen. I think do means what do I do? So I used to do outdoor education consulting, and I just launched a graphic facilitation and recording business a couple months ago, and it's been really fun, and people are hiring me, so that's great. My outcome today, I'm not trained as an artist. I'm trained as an engineer, so I have decent block lettering, but I don't have a very broad font palette. And I don't actually know that I don't know that I have a favorite marker. I have favorite little markers, but I don't know that I have a favorite yet for working big. So I'm taking notes. And my Neuland is coming tomorrow, so I don't have it yet.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Angie. Annika, you're next.
Hi, so my name is Annika. I am a front-end UI UX developer, and I'm looking to better my handwriting, and this seems like a great place to do it. My favorite marker, gosh, probably Prismacolor because I'm an artist. So I'm just now learning to use these things, and I got this from the Meetup group a few weeks ago. I don't know if you remember me being there, but yeah, so I'm looking forward to this. Sorry about the cats.
Everybody loves kitties. Got mine here too. Thank you, Annika. Mr. Ben Tinker, everybody. Ben, I think you just jumped on, but we're doing a little team portrait. You know the drill: name, do, what you're looking forward to, and your favorite marker. I might come back to him because I think he just jumped on. He might be muted and getting settled. Okay. Well, so we'll come back to Ben. Carla.
Hello, glad to be here. Carla is my name. I am an internal OD practitioner. I have had one course in graphic facilitation. I would like to use this opportunity tonight to practice. I'm still afraid. I'm still at the fear stage of the whole thing, even though I've had one course. So this is just a space, I think, to just try things. My favorite marker is when I took my first course, I learned how to do shading with the gray. So I did have my Neuland markers from my course, as well as I've done one meetup in DC, and I ordered the special free package or discounted package that we got for this course tonight. So I'm just interested in learning how to use it all better. Thank you.
Thank you. Excellent. So Charlotte, you are the next, and then after Charlotte will be Deborah.
Okay, so I'm Charlotte, but I go by Charlie, and I am I don't know what I am at OG Systems. I guess I'm a senior consultant with, and you know, I'm doing government consulting on one of their contracts. And I used to be a kindergarten teacher, so I do have really good handwriting, printing, but I've never been to any of this. But I'm hoping to do it as a semi-retirement job one day, maybe. So I'm interested in getting involved. This is the first thing I've ever attended, so. And I don't have a favorite marker because whatever I used when I was a teacher was my favorite marker, and I can't remember what it was.
Excellent. Thank you so much for joining us. So let's see, Deborah's next, and then after Deborah will be Jacob.
Hi, I'm Debbie DeLue, and I am an illustrator and aspiring graphic facilitator. Before I did illustration, I was a project manager for many years, so I'm comfortable up at the whiteboard leading groups. I have taken one course in graphic facilitation, and my favorite marker is the No.One and ArtMarker.
Excellent. Thank you. And did you say, and I may have missed it, but what was the thing that you're looking forward to about this workshop?
I'm looking forward to improving my lettering. Large lettering small is not a problem, but large lettering is sort of difficult for me.
Thank you very much. All righty, so Jacob is up next, and then after Jacob will be Julie.
Hey all, my name's Jacob. I'm an instructor and a facilitator. And for the next 10 minutes, I have a special guest, Fern, with me until bedtime, where I'll sneak away for a little bit. And I'm using tonight as forced practice. If I'm in a virtual room with other people, I have to do it. And my favorite marker that I've been using this week for a class is my Neuland brush marker. It's 700 purple.
Mm.
Oh, here you go.
Thank you. Thanks, Jacob. Happy to have you here. So let's see, Julie is next, and after Julie will be Lynn.
Hi, everyone. I'm Julie, and I'm delighted to be here. It's so nice to meet you all virtually. I call myself an organizational cartographer. I work in sort of the mix between organizational development and graphic facilitation. And I am Canadian. I live in the southern part of Ontario. I joined to force myself to do some practice. But I like the comment one of the other learners made about wanting to expand their font palette, and that was definitely the draw for me. So looking forward to that part of tonight. And my favorite marker is whatever marker I have in my hand at the moment.
Excellent. Thank you, Julie. So Lynn is next, and after Lynn will be Matthew.
Thank you. Hi, Lauren. This is Lynn. I'm an internal consultant like Carla, and actually Carla and I work together. I've taken one course in graphic facilitation, and I am pleased to say I got the bug. It bit me, and I've been incorporating it slowly into my facilitation practice, and I want to learn the basics, and especially for lettering, because that's really, I'm really, really bad at it. My favorite marker is the Neuland ArtMarker.
Thank you, Lynn. And Matthew is up, and after Matthew will be Paula.
Good morning, my name is Matt. I think I'm the only person from Australia on the call. I'm just making my coffee in the background. What I do, I work as a graphic reporter and graphic facilitator, and also make a lot of hand-drawn videos. My company is called Sketch Videos. My outcome for today is just to get some general type wisdom. And my favorite marker, I really love the flesh tones in the Copic series. My visual maps that I've been creating, the difference it's made to be able to depict diversity with color that accurately matches the diversity of human flesh has been a real game changer for me. So that's me.
Thank you. Excellent. Welcome. I hope your coffee is good. Let's see. Paula is up, and after Paula will be, am I pronouncing this right, Heather? Piotr?
I think he can correct us.
Please correct me. But Paula's up next.
Hi, I'm Paula Kehoe, and I am transitioning into graphic recording, and lettering is definitely my weakest link. I come from a background as an artist and art teacher, but that does not cover lettering. And really looking forward to working with Heather. I became familiar with her through the Doodle Institute. She did a workshop with Diane Black, and I was lucky to be part of that. And so I decided to sign up for this one. And I really want to learn about how to use lettering for graphic recording. And I noticed she has a special workshop on that, but I'm very curious as to how you manage lettering and graphic recording. And my favorite marker are I really like the outliners from Neuland, and I also really like the brush markers. I love all the colors, so look forward to this workshop today.
Thank you, Paula. So Piotr is next. He is going to pronounce or correct how I'm pronouncing his name, and then Ruth is up after that.
You can call me Peter. It's okay.
Thank you.
So my name is Peter. I do now I mostly do trainings because I'm from Poland, and in here graphic recording and visual facilitation is kind of new, like only a few years. So it heavily went through all the trainers who work with flip charts, and they train other people. So in here in Poland, the whole visual thinking niche started with training the trainers how to make their own flip charts better, to communicate what they want to do. And the second thing I do is graphic facilitations, not graphic recordings, but graphic facilitations. I mean, I work first with people from small organizations for now, and we both try to get with a visual solution to their problems. The outcome, well, I have a lot of things because I am kind of a little after being beginner, but for me the most important thing would be how to learn to be consistent with my lettering, because I like to explore and try different styles, but at the same time I do not stick with one style for too long. And my favorite marker is probably the brush marker, but not necessarily Neuland's, although I just like everyone. Right now I'm in love with Winsor & Newton watercolor markers because I like watercolor as well, and they have very good brush tip as well. Yeah, so that's all.
Thank you so much, Peter, and thank you for joining us all the way from Poland. That's very exciting. Let's see, Ruth is up and Tara will be next.
Hi, my name's Ruth. I write curriculum for early childhood, and this is all new to me. We have a worker who is very good at graphic design or drawing all these visual graphics, and since I presented it, I'm interested in how I can take my ideas and present it more visually to others. So I don't have a favorite marker because it's all new to me, and that's it.
Excellent. Thank you very much. So let's see. We have Tara up and then Teresa next.
Hi, I'm Tara. So I'm a CPA by discipline, but a creative at heart. And I'm just here to learn something new that isn't a tax return or a lunch sheet. And my favorite marker, a toss-up between this Sharpie and this Neuland outliner.
Cannot knock the Sharpies. Sharpies are awesome. We love them. Thank you. Let's see. Teresa is up and then Tracy will be next.
Hi, everyone. This is Teresa. I am a lead in client services for the Deloitte Greenhouse, which essentially means that I facilitate client labs or workshops for a couple days, 1 to 2 day sessions. And we help them work through some sticky business issues. So in conjunction with designing these experiences, I also am doing a lot of graphic capture and doing flip charts and things like that. I'm also in a graphic capture apprenticeship program at Deloitte. And I'm looking to just expand my lettering repertoire, bring more tools to the table, and make everything look better. I would say my favorite marker is probably the Neuland brush nib art marker, in a bright color preferably. That's all.
Excellent. Thank you, Teresa. Tracy is up, and then I think we need to go back to Ben. If you can hear me, we'd love to get your intro after Tracy.
Hi, everyone. My name is Tracy. I'm actually from Saskatchewan, Canada, and I work in the area of community development and coaching with families and individuals as well, and have done Christina Merkley's both graphic facilitation and visual coaching courses. And for today, I mostly want to learn about all of these fancy markers you guys are talking about. I've not dove into playing much with, I guess, more sophisticated materials. So that's what I'm after. Favorite marker, I don't have one yet.
Thank you, Tracy. And Ben, are you there, Ben?
Hi there, can you hear me?
Yes,
Hear me?
Ben, would you please tell us? Yes, we can hear you. Yeah. If you can see Heather's screen, you know what we're doing.
Fantastic. So my name is Ben Tinker. I am a graphic facilitator, a graphic recorder, an aspiring letterer. I have a practice called Common Clarity, where I provide these services to clients. I am also the team lead for the OG Systems Visioneering team. And so I work with Lauren and Heather and a few other graphic facilitators and graphic recorders, and love to geek out on this stuff. My outcome that I'm looking for, I always from my dear friend Heather, and always from the class participants. So I look forward to sharing and learning from everybody else during the session. And my favorite marker, I do have, I love the Sharpie. I love it. But my aspiration is that I can use a Neuland BigOne with the same confidence that I use a Sharpie today. So that's a goal that I've been working toward the last few months. That's my scoop.
Excellent. Thank you, Ben. Did anyone else join that hasn't introduced themselves yet? Okay. Well, just to wrap up our team portrait, if you can see it on my doodle cam, I've captured names as well as outcomes. So again, for the facilitators out there, this is a great tool to start off facilitation with. It also enables everybody to kind of, both the instructor and everyone, to kind of get a sense of what outcomes they expect. And using this, we can hold ourselves accountable for making sure that we get our questions asked that we would like to learn. So with that, Heather, I know I did not say what our end time will be, so I'll let you talk about how long you would like to run tonight, and I will shut up and mute myself.
No, don't do it.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. It's really great to meet you. I'm really glad you told me what you're interested in learning, because I wrote some of those down, and I'm going to work that right into today's lesson. And please, at any time, stop and ask questions. And again, if you feel like it would be an interruption because it's not relevant, then put it in the chat room, because we want to know your questions, and I'll certainly answer those. And as far as when we end, I could go all night, but I don't know that everybody else wants to. And I don't know if we have unlimited recording on this Zoom. Do you know? And I'm kind of kidding, kind of. So
I don't know.
Why don't we do this? I know that 90 minutes is a long time to letter for some people, so just know that I'm going to be talking a lot of the rest of the time, and you can practice at your own pace. But I'm going to go ahead and say, let's go an hour and then check in and see how everybody's doing. And of course, there's going to be questions throughout, but I'll at least put my timer on for an hour, and I'll see how much I can cover in that time. Oh my, okay. Super. Well, I know that you came here to letter. I did too. And even though my camera's being funky, it'll zoom in there for a second. There we go. Oh, it keeps doing that. I want you to go ahead and grab some paper and grab your favorite marker. I don't care what it is. I know we had a lot of ArtMarker fans, which I'll be using, but it's whatever you feel the most comfortable writing quickly with. And so grab the marker that you feel most comfortable writing quickly with. And I want you to try to write, even though you might be sitting down. Some of you, I noticed you had flip chart paper. Some of you might be standing up. I want you to write the size that you would normally write when you're graphic recording. And when I say normally write, I mean the content size. So if we have 3 different sizes that we draw, and I'll just use this quick handout here. If we do glance for titles, scan for topics, read for, say, mostly the content, and then the study is maybe the fine print, somewhere between read and study. And for some of you, that might be between 3/4 of an inch to 2 inches. I don't want to get really super mechanical about this, but I just wanted to give you some kind of format to start. And this is just a warm-up, just with our letters. we're going in cold. We're not even doing any strokes. So all we're going to do is the uppercase alphabet just to start. And I want you to write as quickly as you can. Don't try to impress me. I'm not watching you. You're watching me. If you miss a letter, that's okay too. For those of you that have taken my class before, this is what I usually have you do. So don't tell anybody the secret. And after you've written all of the uppercase, go ahead and write all of your lowercase. After you get done with your lowercase, go ahead and do some numbers. Remember, we're rapid recording, so we're going really fast. And then go ahead and hit a bunch of those symbols that you usually see on the top of your keyboard. And since it's right there next to you, you could probably find them pretty easily. I might have missed a few, and then some other symbols. All right, cool. So now we've gotten sort of the jitters out, right? What I want you to be looking at is the space between your lines, which we call the leading. Are they somewhat consistent? Are there big spaces between some and the others? And the reason why I bring that up is because your leading is important because it helps your reader know what's connected to what. So I'm going to keep referring back to the person who asked that they wanted to know how is lettering used in graphic recording. It's a really big question, and I can answer it a gazillion different ways, and so I might be going back to that one. And leading is important, like I said, because if you were to make an entire list in front of a group of people and using a flip chart, you'd want to make sure that all of the lines are pretty evenly spaced. And if you do have space between some of the lines, people may assume that it's a different idea or a different section. And so you can use spacing on purpose for that reason too. Then I'd also like you to look at the space between your letters. Now, how consistent are they? When you get to some letters, do they touch? Do other letters look really far apart? And why do you think that is? And I'm going to geek out for a second, and I'll tell you why I think my C touched my B and why my G didn't touch my F. Because when I was writing this, I oftentimes, when it comes to the C, the G, the O, the Q, and the S, those are all letters that start sort of at the top and then go backwards on a curve. And they're almost the hardest to space. And so I think that's why they touched. And so I think when I got to my G, not only did I probably miscalculate the space, but I was trying to compensate for what I did back here. And relationship between letters is really important too, because just the same as the space between the lines, the space between the letters, which is called kerning on the computer, but it's the space between those letters is what makes our words readable. And just a quick tip, this is a side tip that you might either take a note or come back and watch the video and take a note of. That is, when your letters touch like this, it's harder to read from far away. And so you probably don't want your title letters to really touch if it's not meant to by design. But if you want people to come in and force them to come in to look at your chart closely, sometimes having your letters touch can be a good thing. So what I'd like you to do now, and I meant to draw in my blue marker, but if you have another colored marker, a different colored marker, what I'd like you to do is circle the letters that you like, that you created, that you like. And just pick a few. And so when I teach my class, I have people switch and tell each other. Actually, I have each other switch, and then I have them tell each other what they liked about their letters. And sometimes we get surprised about what we might see. And the reason why I do this is not only to encourage you to work from your strengths, but to really look at your letters in a different way. So that's just a really quick warm-up. What I want to do now is talk a little bit about speed and why speed is really important. So you can keep lettering if you wish. I'm just going to talk a bit about speed. and I call this my speeds of lettering. And so there are, getting in focus there we go. Okay, there are 3 speeds of lettering. We've got the personal note speed. That's the one where a lot of you might say, oh, my handwriting doesn't look so great. Then we have graphic recording speed. Also, I would say that graffiti artists and sign painters work at this very fast speed. Graffiti artists because they don't want to get caught sometimes, and sign painters because they're making signs by the hour. And for graphic recording, we're doing it because we're recording live in front of a lot of people, and we want to capture the really great content that they're talking about. And then the very slowest lettering speed is our art. This is where calligraphers are in this area. And the reason why I talk about the speeds of lettering is to do 2 things: to remind you and to show you in full embarrassment that even my own handwriting, do a little close up, looks terrible. I can even hardly read it, but it's because I'm going fast and it's my personal notes. But if other people are going to see it, like our graphic recording, thank you notes, things like that, we're going to make it look good. But when it comes to making pieces of art, we can really take our time. This was a piece that I sketched in a sketchbook, got feedback from my buddy Ben, and then later on did parts of it. I set part of it on the computer, and then I traced it, and then I decided I was going to bevel. Oh, and then later on, which I didn't end up including, but I wrote Neuland and then put each one of these little letters digitally inside of each one of these marker tips. And so this took me a long time, probably about maybe 2 weeks over a span of doing a lot of other things, but conceptually it took a long time. So just be gentle with yourself. I know that you just wrote really, really fast, but for the most part, we live in this world, in graphic recording world. And what we have to be able to give ourselves the opportunity to do is to learn the form and to go very, very slowly, because right now, if you're wanting to improve your handwriting, if you're wanting to add new lettering styles into your lettering vocabulary, you're going to have to go slow. And it's because when you get in front of clients, you're going to have to go fast. And it may not be this pretty. In fact, it may not even be this pretty sometimes, because sometimes we're forced to go really, really fast, especially if you don't have control over slowing the client down or the speakers down. And so we have to build on that muscle memory that we've built during our practice. And so I like to talk about the speeds of lettering. What I'd like to hear from all of you, and let's do this in the chat room, otherwise we'll all talk at the same time, is I would like to, maybe if you were to write, let me grab a pen. Maybe if you were to write, what's your as is? Where are you now with your lettering? Are you sort of in that personal notes, want to improve your writing, or are you graphic recording, or are you an artist? So what's your as is, and then what's your to be? What do you ultimately want to be able to do? So you can just write it just like this. You can put what your as is and your to be. Helps me understand how many people in the room, and I think a lot of you have already told me how you're planning on to use this. Yeah.
I can kind of articulate. It looks like Paula wrote in as, would that be helpful? The name them out? No. If people can just put it and then we can see them. We can just see the chat room. Yeah, that's fine. Excellent. Okie dokie. Yeah. Cool. It's just sort of a segue so I can get all my other materials ready. So speaking of other materials, I want to share with you, we had someone say that they wanted to talk about, they wanted to say, how do you use all of these tools? And, you know, what's with all the stuff that I asked you to download? Well, I asked you to download 4 lettering exemplars from Neuland's website, neuland.com/handlettering. If you didn't have a chance to do that, no worries. We're going to do some demos with this today and just give you an overview on some of these, because I could teach this, just for me to teach these 4 would take over an hour. But I did want you to download them and have access to them. First of all, the first thing I cover is Roman majuscule. So this is for people who really want to improve their handwriting, and they want to be able to make sure that they're what I call skeleton letters
are very consistent. So when it comes to consistency, understanding your forms, how big they are. So if you notice at the top, I have OQCGD, and if you want, we can start writing those. And I'm actually just going to use a number 1 to do that. No, I'm going to use a number 1 practice pad, but I'm going to use an outliner to start. And so if you have that in front of you, what I want you to notice is you've got these little bitty blue lines, and then you have where the, you have the little bitty blue lines, and then you have where the line is in conjunction with that. And at the very bottom of it, you'll see that I refer to an exemplar from Sheila Waters. And Sheila Waters is an incredible calligraphy artist who taught me this lettering form. And so I'm going to do it freehand now, which I rarely do because I actually don't graphic record this way. But when I draw these letters, I think, or when I'm graphic recording, I'm actually thinking about these letters, and just the influence of these letters help me when I'm graphic recording. Now, I would never graphic record this slow, but you don't practice fast. Oops, the G is pretty, that's not a good one. That's not either. A little bit more straight. Boy, I'm having a hard time with the G. It's hard to talk and draw letters at the same time. You actually practice form, learn form, but practice speed. So in your practicing, you're not actually practicing speed, you're practicing form, but when you're working, you're going to do speed. Now that OQCGD, these are 1 inch wide, 1 inch tall letters. And so they're very big letters. Then the next line that I have, Hunt has, these are 3/4 inch, or 3/4 inch letters. Now, why is that important? Well, it's important to know how wide your letters are when you create them, because say you're centering maybe a title or a word on a page or in relationship to something else, you kind of have to know the width of the letter. So even though this may seem like school to some of you, maybe that's a good thing or maybe that's not, what it does is it helps you understand how big are letters. So I'm just going to go through this next few letters and then move on a little bit because we have a lot to cover tonight. And I want to get through all your questions. And then, of course, the very thinnest are your Befflers KXYJI. And, of course, the I is just a line, right? But what I'd like you to do is really focus on how these lines are in relationship to the blue circles and squares behind that. And then you'll notice, too, I showcase how I've done the same lettering with a number 1. And I'm actually holding that, in case you're interested, I'm holding that marker at about a 30 to 45 degree angle. So what I'll do is I'll make sure that my marker, I actually do it tip down. So my tip is facing down. Let me push that up so you can see that. Okay. And I know that I'm holding it correctly because I'll make this mark, and both the tip and the heel of the marker, the whole broad side, is flat. And if I start at 11 o'clock and go to 5 and then go to 11 o'clock and 5, you'll see that the thinnest part of my O is right there. So I know, I like to write the O first because then I know, okay, that's exactly where my tip is supposed to be. Then I can go back with almost each letter, or if I kind of forget. And in this case, because the tip is determining what the style looks like, it's always going to stay in the same place. So this is monoline and this is broad, and you'll just practice using these letters, having that exact same angle of your marker each time. Okay, any questions about that?
Yes, Heather, this is Lauren, and wanted to get a question from Paula that's in the chat. She was asking, how do we use the template, the tracing sheet?
Excellent. Okay, so I realized that I may not have included this, but on my website there is just this part of the sheet. And let me see if I can find that. I believe I have a bit.ly for that. And what that means is you can,
heathermartinez.com.
Yes, but I have a bit.ly because my website actually has a lot on it. Let's see if I can find it. Oh, I have so many bit.lys. Okay, I believe it's Roman. I think it's Roman Madge, but let's see if I can find it somewhere. I don't know if I have it handy. I'll put that in the, once I get that, I'll put that in the video or the chat, or we can post it online so that you have that. Yeah, sorry about that. Any other questions about this particular exemplar? Really, again, this is just for your, okay.
Yes, from Angie, also in the chat. She wrote in, can you show us again how you are holding the marker?
Absolutely. So a lot of times, I love the grooves that are in the No.One and also in the BigOne. Actually, they're in all the markers. They're helpful because you can start there. And these grooves are ergonomic, and they have this wonderful little dot that goes in the middle. And so it'll help you put your fingers there. Now, I don't want to tell people that you're not holding the marker correctly, because I know all of you have been holding some type of tool in your hand ever since you can remember. And so it's important for me to tell you this is one way to do it, but you have to find your comfortable way. And I can tell you that when I get a BigOne or an art marker in my hand, it kind of all goes out the window because I hold it however I need to hold it to make the lettering style that I want. And so if you find that you're getting way too tense, the first thing you want to do is go ahead and hold it so you've got your thumb and your forefinger in those grooves with your middle finger sort of resting underneath, almost like just resting there. And if you feel like you're getting too tense in your body when you're lettering, whether you're doing it in front of a client or not, I want you to grip the marker as hard as you can. And then I want you to let it go, but still keep your fingers in the same place, almost to the point where you could almost drop it, like it's just kind of not even there. And then do that a couple of times, and then you'll find that comfortable place, and hopefully it'll help you relax. You can also use some breathing exercises too. But essentially, in this case, when I'm holding my marker for this exemplar, like I said, I'm holding it with the tip down so that it's going at about a 45 to about 30 degree angle so that I can make that O. And you'll know if you have the right angle, and you know if you're drawing it straight. Oops, I didn't get the whole thing there. And going in a straight line, if you're moving your whole, I'm actually moving from the elbow and the wrist to draw this line. Now what happened, that one's a little flat. If I make it more angled and move the entire thing down, you'll notice the angles. See that? Sometimes what happens too is people start out pretty good, and then they kind of go flat here. We're getting really, it's not this important for graphic recording, but it is important to practice and notice these things so that you don't have those questions come up. Okay? Any other questions about this one?
Not from the chat, if anybody wants to chime in.
My voice, I don't know if you guys can hear me. Thank you. Yes, drawing the lines helped the problem I was having. So.
Drawing these practice lines?
Yes, that helped the problem. So thank you you answered my question with that last one. Thank you.
Yeah, excellent. Good. And let me show you, because we'll get into the practice in a minute with the rest of these, but let me show you a little bit about the pads. So someone mentioned that they purchased the special that came, I think I announced that early on, and that came with the marker set. And let's see, this is my actual full set here, not the pencil, but these are all the markers that it comes with, including, yeah, that's right, it's right in here, the fat one. And so I chose this set to go along with these exemplars, and well, the exemplars that you downloaded, and to go, and I've also designed these lettering practice pads. And so there's 3 practice pads. There's a No.One, there's an art marker, which also has these nice little lines that are guides to help you with your, it's sort of a tilt. And then there's a BigOne, and the BigOne is to help you draw really big, of course. And the reason why I suggest using lined paper to start is it gives you that frame to work in. And so they're sort of like working with training wheels. And they're really light colored. And the features around those, let me find a side that hasn't been written on, if that's possible. No. Okay, we can show it here. So when I talk about, you'll hear me use vocabulary like this is the baseline. And on these practice pads, there's a thick line at the bottom. And then this is the X height. And what determines that being an X height is any lettering style that's going to have an X right there. That's how tall it's going to be. And if there's an ascender, like you use the ascender line, your capital letters and any letters that have a part of an ascender is what it's called, but part of the letter that goes above that line. And then say you've got a descender. Of course, I'm using an art marker on a No.One pad, but your descender is anything that goes below here to this actual line. And so just like in school, you have baseline, X height, ascender, and descender. And that's on all of these lettering practice sheets, including, I talked a little bit about the art marker practice sheet, and it also has these, it's actually a 9% or a 9-degree tilt all the way across. And what I've noticed is, and I designed this so that you can write almost an entire letter in the area between these. And so it goes over a little bit, but you can see that. So those are the actual tools that I recommend. And you can find those. This is the commercial part. You can find those online at Neuland.com, Heather's Choice. And there is about a 15% discount by ordering it as an entire kit. And I use that for all of these pieces. Plus, and I'll go ahead and announce it, I I'm doing a soft launch of my website today. It's called Let's Letter Together. And you can go online and there are 4 free videos, one for each one of the exemplar, and then an extra one at the beginning that talks about the entire kit and talks about the exemplars. So you can check those out. I think all of the videos together last about an hour, and all of the downloads are there too. So if you already have these downloads, great. If you don't, you can get them online, or you can get them from that particular course. You just have to go in and sign up. It's free. And that Roman majuscules template that we talked about is there too. So,
Heather, what's the URL for Let's Letter Together?
Yep, it's letslettertogether.com.
Excellent.
Yeah, thank you. So go ahead and grab your practice sheet again, the one that we drew really fast on. Let's see if I can find mine. Because I want to talk about the next exemplar, and that is double stroke first stroke. So going back to that great question, using it in graphic recording. Yes, I use double stroke first stroke in graphic recording to make any of my existing lettering styles bold. So again, you can use any one of the markers to create this. In this instance, I did use an art marker. And the way you read this exemplar, a ductus is anytime you see the entire alphabet, maybe there's arrows that tell you where to go. Well, this ductus instead is color-coded. And so here you'll notice that the yellow is the first line that you're going to draw, the orange is the second, and then the red are the subsequent lines that you're going to draw on your letter. And again, you don't have to practice my exact lettering style. This is my fast lettering style in art marker. And you only have to use one color. You don't have to use all 3. In fact, I saw someone, when I was developing this exemplar, I saw someone posted on Instagram that they copied this, and I thought, oh my gosh, they're copying my exemplar as an exemplar. And I contacted her and I said, that's not really how that's used, but here, let me give you a quick lesson. And she goes, that's okay, I think it's pretty. I thought, okay, but I'll tell you, it was not easy to make. It's hard to switch between all of those colors. So just real quick, the idea is that your first stroke is a double stroke. So as soon as you make your first stroke, make another stroke, and then write the rest of your letter. And again, all of these, what I'm showing you here is all in a video online at Let's Letter Together. So I don't want to get in too far into this. So I want to answer some of your other questions too. But this is an instance where that very first stroke becomes the double stroke. So you can imagine if I were to go back and just show you what my letters look like before the double stroke, they're clearly thinner and the double stroke, and you write it right next to it. So it's just offset slightly, makes it just that much bolder. Okay. What questions do you have? You can talk it out or put it in the chat, whichever you feel comfortable. Okay, so double stroke, first stroke. So that's the bold that I use. Oh, and I can show you, it can be used on any type of lettering style too. And a lot of times you can use it just to bold. You can just do double stroke anywhere you would have a thick stroke. So I'm kind of jumping ahead here. Let's get into the, where is it? Let's get into the ArtMarker handout. So your ArtMarker handout, this alphabet handout, I made this gray so that you could trace it. You could take a colored, any color ArtMarker. Now mine are away from me. There we go. And you can trace it exactly. But before we do that, what I'd like you to do is do a couple of warm-up strokes. And every single one of our markers has warm-up strokes. Trying to see if I have any examples. For the ArtMarker, the idea is you want to hold your marker as flat as you can to the page, like horizontal to the page, and press down as hard as you can. And what we're doing right now is we're making a scale of marks that this particular ArtMarker will make. Now, I know a lot of you said that you love the ArtMarker. Me too, because it can do all kinds of wonderful things. But to get confident strokes, you have to know what it can do. So you're not just noodling around with it. So then the next stroke that you make, you're actually going to keep it, you're going to make it more vertical, not all the way, but a little bit, and you're going to not put down as much pressure. And then you'll do it again and again until you have a scale of strokes. And then to make the very lightest stroke, you're actually going to go up and you're just going to pull the marker. Now my tip is a little frayed right there. But these are down strokes. And then your thinnest stroke is going to be up. And the tip around the cheater around doing brush lettering is that you're going to go thick down, thin up, thick down, thin up. So my practice strokes for this are thick down, thin up. You can do them straight to start. And notice every time I make a line, I actually pick up my marker. It's not a continuous. You're not just making cursive letters using an ArtMarker. You're actually making different strokes. And so to practice that, the next one you'll do is a thick down, but then you'll make sort of a U shape, thin up, and then thick back down. And you don't want to continue this into one big long thing. I've seen people do that where they're just going on and on and on, but we don't actually make calligraphy lettering like that. It's not continuous at all. But I do want you to have these two strokes. You can break it up into two if you want. If it's easier for you to go like that, and then easy for you to start at the bottom and go down, you can make those practice strokes. But by doing it all in one, you get sort of a range. You'll see your range. And then, of course, you can start at the bottom and go thin up. And you're going to see a lot of these same shapes in your letters as well when we start to make letters. So one shape that you'll make is the O. And I'll break it down for you. So I actually start at about the 1 o'clock position, and I'm sort of pushing my marker into that space and then going thick and then thin. And the trick is that anywhere, if you notice, when I make my straight marker, or when I make these straight lines, my marker is perpendicular to that line. The thickest line is, and then the thinnest line is actually parallel. So when I make an O, notice my wrist is sort of like a U joint, it's a universal ball joint. And so I'm pushing it up, going thick down, and then I'm lightening it up. Now this is probably the hardest lettering style you can learn, is brush lettering. But once you master this, and when I say master, you don't have to do this for 20 years. You can get pretty good at it pretty quickly. You're going to feel the difference with the pressure that you put on it and the angle. Yeah.
Heather, there are
so we had some questions.
Questions, yeah. So Peter has asked a question about the ArtMarker stroke order. Does it always have to be, does the downstroke always need to be thick, or are there styles where it's reversed? Or, for example, with the letter M, the first stroke of it can be downward, but can it also be started from the bottom to the top?
Yes, absolutely. So excellent question, Peter. In this case, especially with the uppercases, you have a lot of variations you can do. But in this case, I like to say, learn the rules to break the rules. And if you can learn the rules really well, and then you can break those rules really well. In this case, you'll notice that my M is light, dark, light, dark. Now, this is a calligrapher's point of view of making an M. Naturally, I would probably, well, it would feel funny, but I would start from the bottom and go up, and then come down, and then go up, and then come down. But if I did want to start it, say, go thick there, I wouldn't do thin, but what I might draw it thin, going down. I don't know. It's a great question. I think that looks, to me, that looks a little odd, maybe because I'm trained my eye to do it this way. But you could certainly go do it like a lowercase M, but just make it bigger to make it an uppercase, if that makes sense. But, you know, it's about style, and as long as it's consistent. So if you decide to make your M's a little backwards, then you're going to have to do it consistently through the entire lettering style. So now you're talking about creating your own lettering style. I think that's exciting. Go for it. But being able to know that rule, to break that rule, is kind of the rule. So yeah. And then there was another one. Is there a way to position your body in the paper that you are working on that makes it easier to letter? Absolutely. Whatever it is to make you comfortable. Now, if you're talking about graphic recording on the wall, I can tort my body in all kinds of crazy ways. And a lot of times I have to step back or remember, kind of reorient myself, look down at my feet, making sure they're parallel or perpendicular to the wall, you know, just to make sure that I'm squared up, because I can get a little disoriented. I get this a lot from left-handers. Do we have any left-handers in the house? Okay, you're either really shy or we have no left-handers. So left-handers, there's a whole different set of rules, and I work with left-handers one-to-one all the time. If you are left-handed, you get a free session with me. So because I like to study left-handers and how they work. So anyway, so positioning the paper, yes, a lot of times when I'm working, since I'm a right-hander, I will position the paper to go to the left so that I can sort of, I kind of face it, but if I'm sitting at a table, it's more comfortable for me to write this way. So yeah, and I do. I position the paper all sorts of different ways. And I'm really making sure that two things. One, I'm aware of my body. I'm aware of, when I'm creating a letter, is the letter coming from my fingers, coming from my wrist, coming from my elbow, or coming from my shoulder? You know, am I moving my whole shoulder to create that? And the smaller letters are going to come from your fingers, and then the bigger letters are going to come from your elbows and your shoulders. So yeah. Has this, has any of this helped those of you who wanted to improve your handwriting at all, either the first, second, or third exemplar? I know that you may not have improved in the last 20 minutes, but has any of these given you any tips that maybe, okay, this might improve? And if not, then what I would do is I would say that, good, I'm glad it's helped. I would say that practice. I know people don't like to hear that, especially if you've been writing your whole life. I know that try to write differently is like trying to breathe differently or try to blink differently. It's really hard. But to practice and then notice what you like and then repeat that. Keep doing what you're good at, because that's how your own style will emerge, right? So we talked a little bit about using these tools. Let me show you another tool in our repertoire here, and that is the BigOne. So if you grab the Neuland handout, and just know that we're finished tonight for doing the ArtMarker, but if you have more questions about it, I'd love to answer them, because ArtMarker is my favorite too. But I do have that free video is online. And so using the BigOne, and of course, I wrote all over my big practice sheet. So I have to use a different one. I'll just make one up. Oh, and this is a good time if you have received the hands-on, this hands-on lettering tips and trick handout. This came from Neuland. It would have come in the mail. You might get them with your orders. There's this wonderful, I think this is almost all in German at the top part. Oh, I guess it's in German and English. These are all some of their new products. They have a new website, the acrylic ones. But then at the bottom, you've seen this before. This is the alphabet that you've just done. There are also tips and tricks on using all of these markers that I've shown you today so far in the kit. And we'll go over the Neuland in a second, but it also talks about the double stroke, first stroke. There's some tips about the ArtMarker. Again, we talked about thick down, thin up. You also want to make sure that your spaces in between are even. And when we talk about the BigOne, we'll also talk about the No.One and how you can use that. And then what I love about this is I helped them design this bottom part, and these are all the markers that they have, the different tips, and when you would use them. So going back to that question about using the tools and when to use them, this is really great. If you don't have that, Lauren, if we could make a note, I have a PDF of just this bottom part that I can share, that we can share out with people.
Noted.
Just remind me, and I'll make sure that if you don't have that, then you can download it. And I made it into an 8.5 by 11, so you can print it out as an 8.5 by 11. So, yep, that's great. So you can have that to the side if you want. For this next part, we're going to be talking about the BigOne, and I'm also going to talk a little bit about the fat one. Unless we have any other questions. Yeah, good. I'm glad to hear that you like the PDF. Good. Super. So the exemplar for that is called Neuland Hand. Now, Neuland Hand was, it was designed by Rudolf Koch, he's German, in 1923, and it has nothing to do with Neuland, the marker company. They just happen to share the same name. And so the secret behind doing this and why I use Neuland Hand is because it's wonderful for titles and topics. So we talked about that glance, scan, read, study. These are great for larger letters that you're going to make. And so starting out with the BigOne, and how can we tell a rookie from someone who's been doing this a while? By the way they open their BigOne. And the way you open a BigOne is you hold it in your hand with your thumb on the cap and you pop the cap. Okay, so if you see someone trying to pull on their cap, yeah, they're a rookie. So you just take it like this. Let's see if I can get it in there, and then pop the cap. You stick your thumb on the end and pop the cap. All right, and some warm-up strokes for this marker, and you can do this with the No.One too, but you really feel it in the BigOne, is that you just want to take some nice thick strokes down, and then because in this lettering style, we want both the tip and the heel, the entire broad side of the marker to touch the page, then go ahead and make some angles, but notice that my angles are also at about a 45-degree angle. I'm not starting straight and ending straight. Nope, I'm keeping it wide the whole way. Notice how this is a much wider line than this. And then go the other way, and then notice you have to use your elbow and your shoulder to make these lines. And then make like a parentheses. I'm going to do a couple of curves. It's just sort of, there's a bend in there. That one's not so great. And you'll notice that kind of looks like the C. The D is a little bit more round. And you can go ahead and start making letters after you've done just about a line or two of these. Oh, and let's do some flats. And so notice I'm not holding my marker just by this. I mean, I might do this, but then when I go straight, if I want to go straight, boy, that feels funny. I go ahead and move my marker so that the top is straight up to do these types of lines. Same with it being, if I'm going to make vertical lines and I want my marker to be straight this way, I'm going to go ahead and maybe not even hold it within those grips to make those lines. And then whenever I make a crossbar, and I want all my crossbars to be consistent, I talk about that here at the L, because I didn't have room to talk about it up at the A, is I want to put it at an angle. So if I make it at a 45-degree angle with my tip going up, I can make a nice crossbar. And if you're using a #1 that's like this light color blue or a gray, you can really see where your lines overlap, and that's great for practice. So that's why I recommend this. You can also use gray markers as well. And then you can just start. And I, again, suggest that you use lines because they give you a sense of where to start and stop. So I'm actually drawing pretty large for Neuland. And I talked a little bit about, I think I talked about pen widths earlier. Your pen width is the width of your pen, and Neuland traditionally, by calligraphers, actually draw it 3.5 pen widths high, but I recommend 4 because we're working with a marker. Sometimes we're going really fast because we don't go slow like calligraphers. So that gives you a little bit more room. And then another variation, and again, this whole exemplar is online in that free video. One way someone was talking about expanding your font palette. A quick clarification, fonts are used on computers, but lettering styles are what we do with our hand lettering. And so if you want to expand maybe your lettering styles, a couple of tricks. First of all, if you're doing Neuland hand, you can say, okay, what if I make it, let's see, 6 pen widths high, but I want to make it the same sort of width, but you want to make it taller? That looks like a completely different letter than this letter. And you get to make it taller too. Notice how low that I put the crossbar here? That's because we want to make sure we don't pinch that area. But another thing you could do is you could vary up where you have those crossbars and what we call junctures, meaning I'm going to make the top half of my B really big and the lower half actually small. Kind of looks kind of funny. But what this is remember when we talked about our X height? Changing your X height changes up your lettering style quickly too. So it's a great way to say, okay, I know how to make this one lettering style. If I can change the height or the width, or if I can change the X height or where my crossbars are, that can change up your style dramatically. A lot of people tell me, I want to know like I don't know, 15, 20 different fonts or lettering styles that I can pull from. And I only know one person that can do that, and that's Trent Wake Knight. And if you know anybody else, let me know. But he can come up with lettering styles on the fly. And you guys are going to hate to hear this from me. I have 4. I have 4 lettering styles that I use all the time. And so what I do is to make them look different quickly is that I change them up in this way. So the ways that you're going to change that up are making them wider or taller, or you can say narrow, depending on how you look at it, those 2 things. And then you can also change up the X height. And so what would it look like if these same letters had a high X height, right? So here's my baseline at the bottom, there's my ascender, and then here's my X height. I'm going to make it higher. You can draw these out, or you can imagine them in your head. I think the reason why the X height for this doesn't work so well is because it's really, you're kind of pinching in there. So I kind of went a little bit lower than that. Otherwise, this would have completely filled up. And you can break the rule. You can change it up. You can make a really low, like this A with this B might actually look pretty cool, but just be consistent. The next time you make another A or a B, you follow that and you don't be inconsistent, especially with your E's, right? You want your E's to be consistent. So if you make an E with a low X height, the next time you make an E, don't do it with a high one. Kind of tell yourself in your head the way you're doing it. So does that answer some questions about expanding your font or your lettering styles? Now you have these same fonts. Yep, good. I'm glad that. Yeah.
Sorry. We do have, I think it's a little bit of a quick marker anatomy go back, if that's okay.
Sure, absolutely. I love marker anatomy.
So this is, oh, good. So this is for wedge nibs, number, I think mostly referring to the #1, but if you could clarify, and I think I know it, but I might be wrong, just the angle that the chisel is supposed to be on is in reference to the little peg on the Neuland markers.
Yes, excellent questions. I will cover all of those. If I miss something, please remind me. I've written here what the anatomy of the marker tip is, and I'm going to use the large one just so that you can see it. But this is true for a No.One as well, because the No.One is actually the same thing, only smaller. So, but I'm going to show you on the big one. And that is the very highest part of your marker is called the tip. And then the very bottom part is called the heel. And then what you call the chisel or the broad side, this is the broadest side of the marker. And so those are the three sides of your marker. And what I think I showed you before, remember when we put the tip on the top, then you can draw a line that is a horizontal line that shows the whole broadness of the marker. And of course, if you make it flat, you kind of have to be at an angle just because you have to follow that same angle to make sure that that's flat as well. And so that's really the broad side. Now, most of the time when I'm writing, and I'll show this with a No.One, I'll show you've got these thick lines, and then to get the thinnest line, what you do is you put the tip back straight up so that it's facing up this way.
See, Heather, are you still there?
Yeah, I lost voice or something.
Okay. Can everyone hear me, Lauren? Give me a thumbs up. Okay.
I can hear you.
So, Heather, it may be that your cell phone that you're using, your audio may have cut out. No, I don't know. I still see it on there. I also had to call back in.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, I don't know what happened. I just, all of a sudden I heard beep, beep, beep. I didn't even touch my phone. It just died. I apologize. So we were getting to the heel. That was quite a cliffhanger, wasn't it? Okay, so to get to the heel, to make your thinnest marker line, you're going to put the tip of your marker up, and you're going to push just that bottom, that very heel of your marker into the paper. Now, if you're using an outliner paper or outliner marker, they kind of dry up a little bit, so they need a little bit of, you need to make a couple of strokes, but that'll make your thinnest line. And then the reason why I show you this tip on the No.One is because when I'm graphic recording, a lot of times I'm only using the very top half of the tip to write my letters. So if I'm writing really quickly, you notice I've even got this to the side a little bit. That's how I write it. Now, the next question was this nib that's right here and how that aligns with the tip, the marker tip. I would say the nubbin or whatever this little bump is here with the marker. Why is this the nib? I'm sorry. So the marker nib. So anyway, the way that it comes from the factory, if you look at it and you hold it so that the little ball thing is straight up, then it should go straight down and it lines almost up with the, let's see, with the tip, but then like the edge of that. Can you see that on your own markers? I know I can't show you on the black. I might be able to show you. Well, no, it's not true for the big ones. So the big ones, so here's the thing. If you want to change this, if that angle seems weird to you, and I change it every single time I replace a nib, I'll take it out, and when I put it back in, I'm very careful to actually angle it a little bit up. That's why when I was drawing this, I was I had it in a different angle, So what I do is I take out the whole nib, and when I put in a fresh one, I turn it back slightly. So I know from my own eye where I like that. Now, why is that important? Because if you change that out and just stick it in and don't think about it, and you go to grab your marker and you have trained yourself to feel that little bump and then put your fingers there and your nibs all kind of cattywampus, you'll start writing and going, wait, this doesn't feel right. And so get to that point where does that feel good? One way to figure that out for the big ones, because you take that out and you put it back in, and it's factory in there. It is, you can't change that nib, but what you can do is you can twist the whole casing. So I'm actually twisting this entire casing inside of there, and it doesn't hurt it. I had, Guido showed me that trick. And so, and you know that it pops back in because there's like a little smooth area. And then when you don't have it there, it's sort of kind of matte. There's no sheen to it. But then when I pop it right back in, you'll see there's a little bit of a reflection there. If that makes sense. Does that answer the question about this little button or this little knob on there and the tips or the nibs?
We got a yes.
All right. Okay. So let's see. I think we covered all of the exemplars, and we covered how to vary some of your styles through wide and narrow X height. Let's see if anybody else has any other questions. I have still a few more things that I want to cover. Any questions from anyone? Can't see the wedge very well. Yeah. It's hard to see on the small ones. Let's see if I can.
Maybe a different color, number one. I don't know if it's just a...
I don't have another color number one. All I have is my very bare minimum kit to teach with, and this kit because we're in a teardrop trailer, the 5x8 trailer. So anyway, maybe you can see it here. I don't know. So that's it. It's at an angle this way. Who asked that question, and what, if you want to speak, go for it. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Oh, and Jacob, will you do that again? If you go over to Jacob's screen, he's holding up his green number one. You can see how the wedge is angled.
Oh, I see what you're talking about, because you're talking about the relationship between yeah, you're right. So I'll just demonstrate on this. So from the factory, that one doesn't want to move at all. From the factory, the nib on a number one looks more like this. There's my little button, which you can probably hardly see right there. And it goes right in line with the tip, and then where the broad side and then the smaller side of the tip works too. Ooh, and that reminds me, you have another size to work with. You know, we talked about these sizes that the big one makes and the number one makes, but then you also have this other broad edge across the tip. So what I did to get that size, and it's slightly bigger than that, not by much, but it's kind of fun because you could make a thick, thin lettering style. So if you wanted to go thick there, and then I'm just using that very tip, but I'm using it horizontally. And say you want to make the first one thick, say on an H, but then the second one, and then an I would just be thin, but then your first part of your N would be thick. And all I'm doing here is I'm moving my marker. So it's just a thin, well, that's a thick thin, but yeah, you get the idea. You can kind of vary up how that looks. And if it looks funny to you, especially where the H and the I and the N come together, then the trick there is to just give it more space. Or maybe that I needs to be thicker, and it may need to have a serif on it. And I'll use the same, if I'm going to do a thin crossbar like that, I'll do a thin crossbar on the I. Does that make sense? So again, that spacing between your letters is really important. Using the different angles to get different sizes, that's really cool. You can make a whole different lettering style just with one marker using just two sides, but using them in different ways. Cool. So someone said something about consistency, and I'll go back to practicing. That's no fun. So what I say is make sure that you are doing very mindful practice. Make sure that the letters that you're making them on purpose. And one thing you can do is you can look at an alphabet. We'll use brush lettering as an example. We'll look at this whole alphabet. I made this. This was the one, I believe this is the one that I made for the video. And if you notice, I'll grab a red marker so you can see here. The shape in the O is also in the A, the C, the D, the E, the G, the Q. All of these shapes are similar. And so one way to get consistent is when you practice, instead of practicing all in an alphabet, then practice these particular letters together so that you get a sense that those are all the same, right? Then look at your B. So your B is a lot like your H. It's kind of like your P. If you're going to do your H, you might as well do your M's and your N's and your L, because the the H is just an L and an N together. And so we call this family letters or letter family, right? So this tells you these are the letters that kind of go together. Your I and your J go together. Might put the T in there. And then you have all these weird letters left, right? You've got your K, which is my favorite letter, but it just looks bizarre. You've got your K. You've got variations in your R and your S. And then you could put your U with your N and your Y with your H. So those can kind of go together because those are replicating these practice lines that we did over here. But then when you get to your V, W, X, Y, Z, those are all weird too. So it looks like just by looking at this, we have red, blue, yellow, green. So we've got 4 different sets. And so if you were to break down your letters like that by looking at them, and it's going to be different for every lettering style, but pretty much the same. Looking at it like that, you're going to look at your letters a lot closer. And then you can also practice them in a row. And then you can spend a little bit more time practicing specific letters that you have trouble on. So can you show alternate small A brush letter? Alternate, is that what we mean? Yeah. Someone might have to clarify. I know 2 different ways to make a small A. Maybe you see that here and you want me to demonstrate it. But the way that I show it is first I say it's all based on the O. And so you can make an O that's really round or oval, or you can make, and this isn't really an O, but it's almost like a triangle. And what that would look like is if I were to make an A with the oval one, I'm gonna start my stem at the top of the X height and go down, and I always like to end my letters like that so it'll connect with the next letter. Notice the space here and here. And then if I make another one that's very triangular, ooh, that looks really weird. Let me start over. It's because you guys are watching me. You stumped me. And then I go over it like that. Notice the space there. It's very different, especially the bottom part. So we have
Did we disconnect audio? Nope. Oh. Okay. Let's see.
Hey, this is Charlie. I'm going to have to drop.
Okay, thank you, Charlie. Can people hear me now? Yes. Okay.
Okay. I'm back. Oh, sorry about
Yay.
that.
Okay.
Sorry, we're
troubleshoot
losing
this.
Anika. Yep. Okay, so I wanted to go back. I thought maybe they weren't talking about brush letter lowercase a. Were you talking about this kind of alternative where you have either just a flat stem or that stem? That's another alternative A. Yeah, memory bend. Yep, it happens. So I don't know if you can see this, but my tip is a little bit flat on that side, like it's kind of actually curved down. And so, yeah, when there's like a really sweet time in ArtMarker, and a lot of times when I get ready to sit down to do a new exemplar, like for this one, I put a brand new tip in because I love that new tip feel. But then there's a point where it starts to wear out, and then it's really nice and juicy. And then there's a point where it's just like flat. And they will go flat really fast if they run out of ink. So making sure that you put plenty of ink in your marker, but not overdoing it is important, especially with the art markers, because we do pull them apart like this. A lot of times, and I overfill my art marker a lot. If I overfill my art marker and I go like that, it could spray all over my chart. So if I know that I filled my art markers the night before, I will very gently, like to the side, open an art marker and then use it. Otherwise, it just, sometimes I've sprayed entire white sheets of paper with an art marker. And if the person's already talking and I just opened up an art marker, I just go. I try to work in the splatter into my piece or just draw right over it if I can. So, yep. So what other questions do you have? Glad to hear that you like this.
Paula, did you have a question about the brush letter O? I think it was.
Yeah,
Did
I
we
just
cover
was
that?
having,
Oh.
I was having a hard time lifting up without it looking shaky. It looks kind of shaky as
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And so that takes finesse, and it just takes a little bit. So when you're talking about when you get to that transition from the thick to the thin, the tip that I like to tell people is if the transition is happening here, you're actually thinking about it here. And so that might help with the transition part. Like when you draw a circle, I like to think of a circle into quadrants. And if I start here, I'm not going to watch my marker as I draw. I'm actually going to put my eye where I want my line to go. And so if you're shaky in that way, coming down, you've got the transition pretty good. Don't look at where your marker is, look at where you want your marker to go. And hopefully that will slow you down enough and help you get the control that you need. So try that and see if that works.
Okay, thanks.
I feel like a letter doctor. That was pretty cool. Thanks. You can solve a lot of problems. You can learn a lot about yourself. You can find your strengths by using the art marker. And so I know a lot of you guys have to go. A couple of things that I wanted to say. First, I wanted to ask too, because there were all these little exercises I wanted to do, but we just geeked right into the lettering. I hope you're okay with that. But I want to know from people why they like the art marker best. And the reason being is because I know why I like it, but I want to know why you guys like it. So many of you guys said you like the art marker the best. Do you mind telling me? And I'd like to write them down. Is anybody left on the line that loves the art marker that wants to share? Yeah, it's a flowy line. Do you feel like you have more control once you think about the perpendicular, keeping your marker perpendicular or parallel? The reason why I say that is sometimes we can create a flowy line and it kind of just looks like a wet noodle, or our letters don't look great, but having those confident strokes could really help. Yeah, the feel of the tip. What else? What are some other reasons why we love the art marker?
We have from Peter, it allows me to experiment the most, and it helps me with, I love this, meditation, calm, flow, or rhythm.
Yeah, I agree. I love it. And being able to draw at that slant consistently helps you with your rhythm. Again, I talked about how you can't really practice rhythm. You can, but that's really advanced after you get your form down. And so if you find yourself writing in that angle, actually italic was created at that angle so that they could write quickly. And it allowed them to have beautiful forms as they did it, because as soon as you finish a letter and come back up, you're starting another letter. Again, I talk about that in the video, but just to remind you guys that when you make this practice stroke, my paper's getting all filled up. When you make any kind of practice stroke and you end, like that's the end of the A, or even if you make an N, you want it, that should be a little bit thicker. You want to end with your practice stroke at about the middle between the baseline and the X height, so that you can add it to the next letter. You can go right back over it. And one of the reasons why I suggest the s'mores, which is the 5 different colors of gray, is because you can really practice really well. I think I used a darker one for this one, but you can practice well and you can see where all of your lines overlap and intersect. It's really nice to be able to see your lines that way. So I had a few other things that I wanted to just share, and I don't know who the person is. You don't have to identify yourself. But someone talked about fear. And I wasn't sure if they meant the fear of writing in front of people or graphic recording in front of people, where that came from, but I did want to share a quick story. Hopefully it's quick. The first time I went to a meetup was in DC, and I had just moved like 2,000 miles to get there, and I was from a very, very small town in Colorado, and I moved to DC because I wanted to start a team, and we did. It's called the Visioneers, and it's been an incredible ride. Yay! And my very first meetup was with Steph Brown at the DCGF meetup. I recommend you all go if you're in the DC area. They have wonderful programming. And I went, and she kind of spotlighted me as a professional. And I thought, well, I guess because that's my job, but this was my first job being a full-time graphics facilitator. And so me and a couple of other people, she kind of spotlighted us and said, okay, since these guys are pros, what questions does the rest of the class have for them? And I was just like, oh my God, I've been on the job for like a week. What do I have to say? And one really timid girl walked up and she said, how do you get over being scared? And at the time I said, I haven't figured that out yet. I was terrified every single time I get up to graphic record. And up until a couple of months ago, I have always felt that way. I don't know if it's because every single client was a new client, it seemed like, in the job that I was in. Working at OG Systems, I worked on a contract where we served everybody in the organization. And so I had a different client almost every other day. And so I was really scared for a really long time. And what I think really got me over being scared was choosing what is my one strength that I'm really good at doing in graphic recording. And for me, that became lettering. I looked at my work and I said, wow, my lettering is the strongest. And it really wasn't that good, but it was the best I had to work with. So I took that one strength that I had and I kept going and going and going. Some of you know my story. Some of you have seen me. Some of you, I've worked with you. Some of you have taken my classes before. And now I'm getting ready to write a book, and I just launched a website and I'm doing all of these things. And it was just because I took that one thing and I made it be my strength, and then I grew from there. So I would say, if you're afraid, figure out what's the value that you bring. Now, letters are really not that important in the scheme, especially when it comes to facilitation. You're there for the group. You're really there to hold a space for others to be successful. But for me, it was enough to give me confidence to go into that room every single day. And so just pick that one thing that makes you feel stronger, that makes you feel more confident. Just like with the art marker, if you feel confident making those strokes, and people get by art markers and they're like, I can't make it do what I see somebody else do. They're really simple tricks to that, and you can master them, and then that just makes you feel more confident. So there's my short, long story about fear. And looks like I covered everything on this list, unless somebody had something that I didn't capture. Any other questions that you have? Oh, thanks, Carla. That's sweet. Anything else? Because I can keep going, but You don't want to see me just drawing letters. All right. What do you think, Lauren? Oh, good. I'm glad you guys have enjoyed it. Thank you. Good. I look forward to teaching more workshops. I don't know who we have in other countries, but I am going to be doing a European tour in 2018. Woo! So that's exciting. And yes, so yeah, Jacob, and you guys know me, my class never ends. So feel free to reach out to me anytime. I love to look at practice sheets. You can take pictures with your phone, and then I'm happy to mark them up, or you can mail them to me. Of course, I don't have a home right now, but eventually you can mail them to me, and I'd be happy to write all over them or send you examples of my work. Happy to share any kind of lettering, anything with you. So, Laura, unless anybody has anything else, what I would like to do is ask people, what are your ahas? What was maybe the one thing you learned today that you didn't know before coming into this? Or what could you take with you and maybe implement in your next graphic recording, your next sketch note, maybe even do something tomorrow or write something up really cool and post it online? And I'd love to hear you just shout that out. Unmute yourself. I want to hear it.
Pushing into the O. That was really helpful.
Good, good. What else?
For me, it was the double line.
The double stroke, first stroke?
Yeah. Yeah.
Good. Yeah. Good.
This is
height.
I think for me, the aha was, I felt like I got better even in this short period of time. So I improved just a little bit in this short practice session.
That's awesome, because that's all we can do. We can't master the whole alphabet in a brand new lettering style in just one sit down.
Yeah.
But I can tell you that if you go watch those free videos at letsletter.com, sorry, it sounds like a commercial, but go check those out. You can watch them over and over, and you can start to see how I do some of those strokes. You'll get them. And I know you will. I know you'll get all of these just by practicing them. So good. I'm glad to hear that, Carla. Thank you.
There are a couple others in the chat from Paula, how to manipulate letters by changing the X line. And from Peter, that slant helps with practicing rhythm. And I have just come up with a new style just now, thanks to relaxing and letting the brush flow in the curve.
Yay! I want to see that new style. If you can, post it online. So some hashtags that I use are hashtag Let's Letter Together. And then let me write this down for you. And then my handle on Instagram and Twitter is at, and it's actually abbreviated, but it's corp, like corporate, graffiti, and graffiti is spelled with 2 F's and 1 T, art. And so that's Instagram and Twitter. And then, of course, let's do Let's Letter Together is my website. I literally just finished it this morning, but it's still going to have some tweaks. So if you get in there and things look a little different, don't worry. You still have access to everything. Just wanted to let you know I'm still going to be uploading some things, a couple more videos, and there's some free things, and then there's a couple of paid opportunities that you can take advantage of, but don't let the prices scare you, because I'm working on a couple of middle range classes that I'll be offering too. And the 2 classes I'll be offering online are the When Composition Matters. You may have taken this class. I know, Jacob, you might have taken this class, or you may have taken the bolding at the top of the page, which was the titling class. I'm going to turn that into a digital online class, but it's just going to take longer because, it was like a 2.5-hour class, I think, in person, and to put all of that on digital, we covered a lot of stuff. So, and to make that, because we did a lot of exercises, I have to figure out how to do that just one-to-one. So, yeah. All right. Any other questions? Thank you, Lauren, for putting up my Twitter. Yep. And Instagram. And yep. Great. Yeah. For me, just learning how to hold the wedge was a big help. Yeah, the big marker it can feel challenging. Oh, just a really quick, for those of you that like the fat one or don't know anything about the fat one is a much bigger marker and it's flat. So if you find yourself having a hard time getting those curved areas on the Neuland using a big one, get a flat or a fat one and just get the 30 millimeter. It's big enough. The 50 millimeter is huge. It's like you can make banners with it. But get one of these, put a light colored, I recommend putting a light colored ink in it so that you can go back over it with other colors. And so this is much easier to use with the Neuland when you're using it with Neuland hand. So yeah, good. All right. Well, Lauren, back to you. If you have any other, thank you everybody for joining me, but I want to turn it back over to Lauren. She might have a few other housekeeping pieces or an announcement.
I just wanted to say thank you so much for this, Heather. I know we all get a little bit better every time you do one of these workshops, and there is a mountain of information. So this is just wonderful. And you're getting so much love both verbally and through the chat. So this has been really exciting to host this with
I can
you.
feel it. Yeah.
Good.
Yay.
We will, as a follow-up, we will post everything we talked about, the video. We'll also be posting some of the links that we mentioned, the tracing sheet, the ArtMarker video, and other handouts and things that were mentioned. So we'll get that all up. What I'll do is I will post it in the event on the Meetup page, and I will message attendees. So you should get, if you signed up for this Meetup, you should get a notice to your email when those get posted. So we will take care of that. Otherwise, if anybody else would like to be on Heather's email list, please privately chat me your email. I'm collecting those as well. And I think that's, and also if you have any feedback that you would like to share, you can also chat that to us or message us on meetup.com and share any I likes, I wishes with us as well.
Yeah.
Our next event will be on June 15th. So stay tuned for that. It's not posted yet. It will most likely be a webinar. And I will let the instructor be a surprise because it hasn't been fully confirmed. But June 15th.
Cool. All right.
Yeah. Good.
That last piece in. Wonderful. Thank you so much, everybody. And I hope you post your work online. And if you want, tag me because I want to see it. Or at least hashtag Let's Letter Together because I'd love to see what you're creating. So thank you.